Oh, welcome back. This is the Only in Miami show, and I'm your host, Grant Stern. You can find me on Twitter at Grant Stern and everything about the show at www.onlyinmiami.co. That's www.onlyinmiami.co. iTunes, podcast, SoundCloud, and a whole lot more. Check it out at onlyinmiami.co. And we're back live with Miami Beach Incumbent Mayor Phillip Levine. Mr. Levine, thank you for joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here.
So let's start off with some of the same questions that we asked David Weeder last week. And I'm going to change them to fit your situation, but tell our audience a little bit about Onboard Media and your experiences being an entrepreneur in Miami Beach before you became the mayor 2 years ago.
Sure. Well, I tell you, I went to the University of Michigan, majored in political science, never thought I would use the degree, and actually finally used it a little bit. And I was always an entrepreneur at heart, and took a job working on a cruise ship, Royal Caribbean, telling people where to go and what to do. A great adventure, great experience in my life. Didn't have any family business to go into or anything like that, but knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I ended up starting a company actually on Miami Beach, locating a little office above the News Cafe, and that was in the late 1980s, and I can tell you that Miami Beach in those days was a very different place to be. And I started this company in the cruise ship industry, and we ended up offering services to the entire cruise industry, from in-cabin magazines and live lectures to live shows on board to all types of duty-free businesses, and of course we expanded and grew it. Started with one person, which was myself, and ended up becoming the largest partner to the cruise industry in the entire world and selling the companies to Louis Vuitton out of France, bought them. And then from that point, expanded into various other businesses, and always wanted to give back, always wanted to help the city that I love, the city that I actually came from and made it, which was Miami Beach. And of course, ran for mayor.
Okay, well, what made you choose Miami Beach in the first place? Why Miami Beach, of all the places to start your company?
Well, I grew up in South Florida, so I grew up in Hollywood, and Miami Beach in those days was there was something just starting to buzz. It was an area that had gone from a real underserved disaster where, as you know, we had many old people on fixed incomes, we had crime, it had gone downhill. But then something started to happen. There was a little magic in the air. The LGBT community started to come. The fashion industry started to come. We had the largest, most unique, historic Art Deco district. And the world was starting to look at Miami Beach again like something was going on. So a young person that grew up in South Florida, you kind of want to go where it's happening. And it was happening in Miami Beach. And that's where I began. And many other entrepreneurs that are so incredible today all began in those years when I began there too.
Okay. Well, let's go to some of the nuts and bolts of governing. Tell our audience, what is important being an elected official in Florida about the Sunshine Law?
Sure.
It's part of our, Florida Constitution, and it's also known as Chapter 119. What's important to you about the Sunshine Law?
Well, I think the objective of the Sunshine Law, of course, is to make sure that everything is out in the open. And I believe that assuming you're doing the right thing for your constituents and for the people that you're serving, it is a wonderful thing. Most people, I believe, appreciate the fact that these meetings are publicly held, that everything that you do as it relates to the business of the city is public information, and it should be. Of course, it makes managing much more challenging. There's no question about it. Anyone who's been in government who wants to talk to you truthfully and not mince words will tell you that on one hand, they do think it's a wonderful law and it makes a lot of sense, but on the other hand, it makes it that much more challenging to run any organization because. Remember something, when you are a mayor, I am one vote out of 7. I have 6 other people. We're called commissioners. It's a little bit like a board of directors.
Well, explain for our audience the way that the City of Miami Beach Commission works, because each commission works a little bit differently. Explain the form of government. It's a weak mayor form of government in Miami Beach, right?
Sure. Well, there's no such thing as a weak mayor, and it's an interesting point because you brought that up, and it's amazing because when I became mayor, I was invited to Harvard University, the Kennedy School. And they invited 20 mayors up, and they invited me. And we had former mayors, current mayors, and had all the professors. And someone said that and asked that question about weak mayor, strong mayor. And one of the mayors said, there's no such thing as that. Either you're a weak person or you're a strong person. But if you've got a great vision and a great direction, it really doesn't make a difference what specific powers you have. People will follow you. And you brought it up with the Dolphins. I think it's a very important point. The speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. If you have great leadership, the whole pack moves forward fast.
I'm not sure that was my precise point, but part of it is that people do look towards leadership. However, a weak mayor and a strong mayor are defined terms
Absolutely.
in government.
Let me,
a weak mayor means that You are not the chief executive of the administration of the city.
Exactly. So the way we describe it this way, okay, put it more in corporate terms because this is a business show, is that the mayor is the chairman of the board. The commissioners are board members. The city manager is the chief executive officer. And then, of course, our city attorney is our general counsel. And then, of course, we have a city clerk, who is our clerk and who's pretty much, I would say, almost maybe the chief information or chief operating officer. So it is a form of government that allows the city manager to carry on executive action.
Okay. So when you say that there's 6 other votes, in the Miami Beach flavor of government, you sit on the council and have a vote on the council as
Exactly,
well.
I sure do.
Okay. And then there's 6 other commissioners.
Yep, sure are.
Okay. Well, it's important to explain for our audience because every city literally does do it a little bit differently. The city of Miami has 5 commissioners, and the mayor does not sit on the dais.
You're right.
And that's another form of weak mayor.
Absolutely.
Some weak mayors are weaker than others, I guess, in the government sense, not
Sure.
in the leadership sense.
Right. Absolutely.
But one of the charges that your competition, Mr. Weeder, did bring up is that he said you are trying to turn the mayor system upside down in Miami Beach. He said you're trying to act as a strong executive by getting a slate of candidates elected.
Right.
So explain to our
Sure.
audience what that would mean, because there's 3 other candidates he mentioned that were
Right.
all managed by the same campaign manager that you have.
Well, Glenn, I think it's funny because, I have an opponent out there that obviously does nothing but sling mud and make personal attacks, doesn't have a real plan of his own, and have had no previous managerial executive experience. The fact is that, in an election like this, clearly there are certain candidates out there that are running for office that believe in the right direction of the city. They believe that the city is moving in the right direction, and those candidates, truthfully, are the ones that I would personally vote for. Now, I have not endorsed anyone, not even sure if I will endorse anybody, but, it's interesting when, there are 4 other candidates out there that I understand are pretty much behind my opponent, and they all believe that the city is going in the wrong direction. So what you have is an opponent that believes City of Miami Beach is going in the wrong direction, and you have the incumbent mayor, myself, that believes that the city is going in the right direction. I'm not sure what type of analysis or polling that they've been looking at, but I could tell you this, that based on the information that I've been privy to, Miami Beach and the people of Miami Beach feel that we are going in the right direction. So I don't quite understand that way of thinking, and I believe that we should be looking at solutions, ideas, ways of doing things better. The one thing that I don't like, Glenn, I'll tell you, you see it in elections all across the country right now. You have people doing nothing but attacking personally. Usually it means they don't have any ideas of their own, they don't have any plans, but they want to attack. And what happens is, and this is the bad part about it, is that Americans are tuning out and turning off to politics because they don't want to hear this negative personal attacking. They want to hear ideas.
Well, let's talk about one of your ideas. How can Miami Beach defeat the flooding problems that it has? Because I saw on the one hand advertisements and announcements that said flooding was solved on South Beach.
Never.
But
Not
then
on
on
this
the other
campaign.
hand, I've seen floods on South Beach that are closing down A1A and causing horrific traffic.
So let me say what we did. 2 years ago, when I ran for office, I always say some people get swept into office. I got floated into office because we had such a major flooding issue, which is sea level rise brought about by climate change.
And let's acknowledge that the Alton Road plan was put in place before you were elected, right?
No, not true at all.
No,
that's not true at all.
It was
These
implemented when you started?
are more lies. By the way,
No. I just want to clarify it.
If we hadn't done what we had done, Alton Road would be underwater today. Okay, so let me tell you what we did do. When I got elected mayor, I put all the engineers in one room, and I said, we're going to fix this. There's no playbook, there's no textbook, but we're going to move forward, and we're going to show the people of Miami Beach that there's a way to solve this, that we have confidence, and we can get it done. So what we did immediately is, the first thing I did is, I went to the governor, and I went to the Secretary of Transportation, and I said, you don't plan to open Alton Road up till now, this time, this year? And they said, yes. I said, we can't tolerate that. We need to change the program, change the engineering, we need to put in pumps, and we need to get the road open sooner. And we opened the road 7 months sooner.
Okay.
Second thing we did is we installed pumps, major pumps. We installed them on West Avenue. We made sure FDOT put them on Alton Road. And then we took the neighborhood of Sunset Harbor, which from a topography point of view is the lowest lying neighborhood, where it was completely underwater, Purdy Avenue and these various areas. We immediately, on an emergency basis, raised roads, put in one-way flex valves. That's another interesting thing. Our flex valves all around the city, where the water goes out into the sea from the bay,
Okay.
they were stuck shut, they were broken open, or they were just fell off into the bottom of the bay. No one from the previous administration would maintain these things, would check them out, so what we had to do is go ahead and do that, number one. Then we had to begin raising roads. Then we started putting pumps in. And what we found is that these areas, 2 years ago, which were underwater, today were bone dry. Now, what we have to do, and what we are doing, we have a $400 million program we put together with over 60 to 70 pumps citywide to make sure the city of Miami Beach is completely dry. But, Glenn, to answer your question, it's interesting. It reminds me of World War II a little bit. It's a little bit like the United States got attacked in Pearl Harbor. We lost 2/3 of our fleet. You'd have people like my opponent saying, nothing we can do about it. We're doing the wrong thing. The United States is going to lose. And then what we do is we land in Normandy. And those same people are saying, well, what about Berlin? What about France? You haven't gotten to Paris yet. But you know what? We landed in Normandy. We showed that we can do it, that Miami Beach people came together. And that's the message here.
Well, like Normandy, Miami Beach has severe environmental issues and development issues as well.
Absolutely.
And actually, we're going to take a really short break so we can delve into those properly. And we'll be right back. This is the Only in Miami show. Clear? Go ahead.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep.
We'll drop your ratings, though.
Why not?
I can promise you.
I wish they were rated here, actually.
We'll promote it, too. What I'll do is we have massive social media.
Yeah, I'm going to put it on the website.
What we'll do is we'll push it out.
Mhm.
We'll push your show out everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
Like all over. It'll be, we get,
No, not yet. I'm just
Oh,
making
okay,
sure it
good.
doesn't
I wanna
fall
make
off.
okay.
Um,
Good.
yeah, no. There's a lot of issues on Miami Beach right now.
I know. All good issues, though. Successful issues. Cities with
A lot of
besides
issues.
flooding, I mean, obviously, yeah. But you know what it is? People, we've done so much in 2 years. And previous administrations had done nothing.
Oh, they're awful.
They
I
were
know.
just nothing. And I was like, listen, if I'm going to be
Well,
mayor, I'm moving things forward.
I don't know if you read the Miami Herald this weekend, but Bal Harbor, they hired Miami Beach's former city manager.
Disaster. This guy was the worst ever.
I know.
The worst.
Well, they hired. I had not realized.
By the way, the guy they hired as chief, the new guy, he was one of our assistants. He's excellent.
Okay.
Mark Overton, good man. No, different. He came from. He wasn't with us that long. He's actually a good guy.
Okay.
No, yeah.
Oh, welcome back. This is the Only in Miami show, and I'm your host, Grant Stern. You can find me on Twitter at Grant Stern and everything about the show at www.onlyinmiami.co. That's www.onlyinmiami.co. And we're back live with Miami Beach's incumbent mayor, Phillip Levine. Phillip, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's pick up where we left off, and I had mentioned development. One of the more contentious issues in this year's election is actually a ballot measure as well, and it is the proposed upzoning of Ocean Terrace, which I have been told would raise the floor area ratio by double, and that means that you can build twice as much building in the same footprint. These floor area ratios are the main ingredient developers use to decide how much space can I build on what sized land. And what opponents have said is that it will not result in twice as much building, but more like 10 times as much building, because what exists today is less than the maximum allowed by zoning. So what is your position on Ocean Terrace?
Right. Glenn, let me kind of go just overall with little development issues, because when I came in to become mayor, not that long after, I read in the Miami Herald on the front page of their business section that a local developer, Crescent Heights, was building a 50-story tower at 5th and Alton Road. Had never been approved, but somehow the Herald picked it up and put it on the front page of their business section, kind of like a brochure. I immediately fought back and said, we're not doing that. When Terminal Island wanted to build condominium project, which is Terminal Island right off the MacArthur Causeway.
You mean Watson Island?
No, Terminal Island.
Oh, Terminal Island.
I immediately said we're not doing that, and we're not putting our land into it. It's not going to happen. When Watson Island came about, when I was running, we stopped it. I've now put together a with the city, of course, we put together a traffic study because we don't want that to happen.
Okay,
either.
but those are all on the south end of Miami Beach. What
So
about Ocean
let me
Terrace?
so let me tell you what's going on. When I knocked on 6,000 doors and I listened to the people of Miami Beach, I came up with a plan. It wasn't my plan. It's called the People's Plan because the people tell you what they want. One of the things that I heard is that it's always been a tale of two cities. That South Beach and Mid Beach got all the attention, but North Beach was like an underserved area where the people felt that they needed more attention.
Well, there is something very distinctly demographically different between North Beach and South and Mid Beach,
Absolutely.
which is...
And North Beach is more of a, I'm going to say like a hip, bohemian, low-key, it doesn't need to be South Beach, doesn't want to be South Beach, shouldn't be South Beach. It's got a great vibe.
But
we knew-
demographically, for our audience, what would you say the difference between
Boy,
the two areas
I'm not
is?
so sure. I mean, maybe more Hispanic, possibly, could be. I'm not sure the demographics are that much different. But we have seniors in both locations.
Perhaps the income demographics are different?
Yeah, I think it could be. But certain areas of South Beach have lower income as well. And some
That's
of the small
true, like the
apartment areas.
Rebecca Towers.
Yeah,
That's
so really-
a Section 8
So
development
it
on Miami and
it
South
really
Beach.
depends. So what we did is we immediately went out there and said, there's a fountain called Normandy Fountain. You may have seen it. It's been broken for years. Never spouted water. Previous administration said it's too hard to fix it. We're not going to fix it.
Fountains
Previous
are
city
not
manager.
typically a good civic investment. I should mention that the city of Miami has a terrible fountain in Bayfront Park.
But this fountain was symbolic. And we said we're going to make it work.
Again, terrible in civic investments.
Yeah, but this was not a big...
And that is symbolic, by
right.
the way.
This was about fixing pipes and actually making something spout water and clean it up.
Sure.
We also said we're going to create more excitement. We want to have the O Cinema came in. We want to master plan all of North Beach. We want to protect the MIMO development, Miami Modern Architecture that's there. It's a treasure. Same way we did with the Art Deco district. All these various things that we've done. One developer came in and said, in that one area of Ocean Terrace, which, by the way, on Collins, you've probably seen it, it's very dilapidated. It doesn't look nice. It looks blighted. And they wanted to come in and potentially redevelop that area. Now, for me, what I voted for is to allow the people of Miami Beach to make that decision. That is not my decision to make. If the people of North Beach decide that they do not want that area redeveloped, then I agree with them. They shouldn't have it redeveloped.
But isn't it a citywide referendum?
Right, but I think
it's
the
not
people
just
of,
a North Beach
But the people of
referendum.
North Beach, I think, are that much more excited and interested in it than the people of South Beach. I'm not sure they're as active in the issue itself. But my feeling is, how do I feel? I believe that the people should decide. I believe that whatever the people decide on that issue is what I'm for. So if they want it, great. If they don't, great. It's the same way with the hotel issue, with the convention center in March. I believe it'll be on the ballot. And I feel at this point, the people of Miami Beach make these decisions themselves.
Well, let's talk about affordable housing on Miami Beach.
Sure.
Besides the Rebecca Towers, what is there? I mean, the beach is becoming truly unaffordable for most people. At a certain point, are you worried that Miami Beach will start to have the problems that Key West has, where when it takes about 30 minutes to an hour to commute out to this island, and the income distribution of the island or island chain, as it may be, because the Keys are an island chain, Miami Beach is a small island chain itself. But aren't you worried that the breakdown of income distribution and mixed income residences will cause a social breakdown on Miami Beach?
Well, I think it's very important that we have all types of housing for everybody, workforce housing and senior housing. You mentioned Rebecca Tower, that's only one building. As you know, we have multiple buildings like that across Miami Beach. We have Four Freedoms, we have Council Towers North and South, they're all throughout the beach, and it's very important for us to protect those, and we also are in the process of looking at new locations. We have one in particular to build additional senior housing. Now, as far as workforce housing, we're actually going to be doing our first subsidized workforce housing project, which is called the London House, which is being converted into pure workforce housing. So we'd like to be able to create more workforce, and I agree with you. Miami Beach needs to be a place that celebrates its diversity. It's the most important thing. It should be for all types of people that can live there and enjoy the wonderful treasures of Miami Beach. I wish we had more land. If there was a way for us to get more land, I would love to do that. But unfortunately, we're kind of restricted. We're a small barrier island, but you brought up transportation as well, and we had some great ideas for that.
And that's where I was actually going to go next, which is, I mean, let's face it, anybody who's driven to or from the beach, especially from the beach, knows that traffic on Miami Beach today is a nightmare. I can tell you that personally, I've just I'm not a car person. Okay, I'll just take Uber or Lyft or a bus or a train or whatever comes my way, hop a ride. But when I go to Miami Beach, I just take the bus because you know what? It's just as slow as anything else. It takes about 45 minutes to drive off of Miami Beach today. How can that be fixed, and how is transit a part of the solution?
Great. Well, let me answer your question in two parts.
A part that is coming soon.
Absolutely. Well, let me answer it in two parts. Let's talk about intra-Miami Beach transportation and inter-Miami Beach transportation.
Sure.
Okay, as far as inter, as you know, I sit on the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Yes, part of the alphabet soup that never builds anything, but discusses transit frequently.
Couldn't agree with you more. Matter of fact, I think I've been the most aggressive voice up there. I always say I'm the least popular member of that entire board. But what we are pushing forward is the Bay Link to connect us. And as long as it takes for the Bay Link, I believe we should get a bus rapid transit going across in a dedicated lane. Now, I wish I had jurisdiction over the MacArthur Causeway. If it was part of Miami Beach and it was one of our roads, I could tell you that we would already be moving forward on a plan with a light rail going across. But unfortunately, I have to deal with the state, the county, and other members of the MPO board. It's just something I can't change to do. But that's a plan where we need to go, and it's going to be about a 5-year plan for that.
Well, what about the Venetian Causeway?
But and of course, and
that's a road that you have some jurisdiction over, and it's got some issues today.
And I wish that I owned that bridge too. Unfortunately, that's the city of Miami, and that's the county, as you know.
Well, that segment of the causeway,
right.
Absolutely.
But let me tell you what we have done. Because 2 years ago when I came into office, I said we're going to come up with some solutions. The first thing we did, and we did it in 52 days, is a free trolley all around South Beach, which the ridership has been through the roof. The second thing we did is we did a North Beach trolley, where the ridership has also been through the roof. It's also free. We're about to launch our Mid-Beach trolley, and we're putting a connector together on Collins, so all these trolleys are free for everyone to use, and they connect the entire beach. So if you didn't want to use a county bus, you can now go on one of our trolleys. That's number one. Number two, as small as it is, we've already got launched and we're moving forward, is with water taxis. We're rebuilding one of our docks. We've already awarded a contract, and we're going to offer the water taxi service between the city of Miami and Miami Beach. The third thing we're doing is light synchronization, a big issue. Everyone complains about it. I agree 100%. But the lights are controlled by the county. They're not controlled by the city of Miami Beach. So this is what we did as a solution, because we wouldn't live with that. We asked the county, can we take one of our employees that we'll train specifically for that, put them in that seat in the county, and let that person run our lights? And they agreed to it, and our person is now at the county, employed by the city of Miami Beach, to literally operate those lights.
Well, I mean, I've read about this in the past, and you can achieve up to a 5% improvement in traffic.
Well, but you got to do it.
So
but you got to do it. But
you do have to do it, and believe me, I do appreciate it. Anytime I drive through one green light and go the speed limit and hit the next one, I'm still at a green light. But that's 5%.
So let me tell you the next thing.
60-minute
Our
rides.
main thoroughfare is Alton Road. Alton Road had to be rebuilt. Alton Road has had construction on it. We've opened it up over the last year, but it's still
It's kind of like the Palmetto. It's like always
think
under
about
construction
this, though.
now, right?
But think about this. In the next week or 10 days, it's done. It's finished. There's no more construction on Alton Road. So you're going to have a clean, flat, brand new, which has been dry for a while now, Alton Road. That will reduce the traffic as well. What are we doing in the future? What I'm pushing for is a streetcar throughout Miami Beach. We have an idea. We have a proposal. We're going to ask for other proposals. It'll be a dedicated streetcar in a dedicated lane doing a loop around Miami Beach. It's a very expensive project. It will have no cables. The electricity comes from the tracks from below, as you see in Europe and in France. That's what, if I'm elected to a second term, that's exactly what my most important objective is getting that streetcar done.
Well, okay, the budget for Miami Beach is about $300 million per year.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be the budget for your proposed streetcar?
$150 million.
Okay.
Yes.
That's it?
That's it. That's the cost right now for the exactly what we'd like to do. Yes.
And how many miles of streetcar would that serve?
You're talking about 5th to Washington, Washington to the convention center. So you see what I'm saying? In other words, 5th all the way to Washington. Take a left on Washington, go north of the convention center, and then literally it turns right around and goes back. We'd also have a garage area so you can park and ride.
So it would just serve basically the strip, just from 5th
Get them off
to
Washington.
Lincoln.
And then now part 2 is to take it westbound on 17th or on Dade Boulevard. It hasn't been decided yet. And go down Alton Road. Step 3 would be have it go all the way north from the convention center up towards the hotels. All this is a plan, and of course, eventually connecting it to the airport. across the Julia Tunnel. But you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. I mean, I don't want to talk about our.
You have to start somewhere as long as you don't finish where you started.
Well, I agree with that, but you know what? We just got to get going, and that's what we want to do. It's the most important thing. Transportation is key. We cannot wait for the county. We can't wait for Baylink. We must move forward ourselves now.
So, I mean, besides this website, which has the solution for Art Basel traffic, what should we do? Because during Art Basel, I understand that the Venetian Causeway is still going to be closed. It's called Fly Blade. They rent helicopter time. It's
Sure.
only $95 a ride. Heck, people in Doral are probably using it every day right now. But, I mean, what are people supposed to do when Art Basel rolls around and the Venetian Causeway is still closed?
So what we're doing right now, and we did last year, and we're going to expand it aggressively, is we're offering additional free trolleys and shuttles all across.
Right,
Miami Beach.
but you can have all the trolleys and shuttles you want. But I'll tell you, 2 years ago, on the Wednesday that Art Basel opened, I had a wonderful VIP pass. And I took my VIP pass and I hopped into my car and I drove all the way from 17th Street to 15th Street on the Miami side of the Venetian Causeway. This is when the causeway was open. And then I tried to turn left. And that was it. I decided I couldn't take the car there because the traffic was all the way backed up to the left-hand turn. I hopped in my bicycle and I rode my bicycle past all the cars. But I was the only guy riding the bicycle. Everybody else seemed to want to stay in their cars. What are they supposed to do this year?
Right. So I think the key to this situation, of course, is less people in their cars. We're encouraging people during Basel, do not drive, use our shuttles. We have so many of them, and we're expanding them so much.
But are they coming from the city of Miami?
Oh, absolutely.
Too?
Well, they're going both ways. So they're literally going.
They're going to come to Miami.
They go right across the causeway. We actually put together, Glenn, dedicated lanes on the causeway during Basel week, just for these shuttles to go back and forth. Now, it can't be dedicated the whole way because when you go over the bridge part, there's just no additional laneage area there. So
Sure.
It's a little more challenging, but and the campaign we're going to be launching is going to be even that much more informative to get people not to use their cars. It's crucial.
Okay, well, since
So next time I tell you, don't bring your bike, just get in one of our shuttles.
Okay, I'll give it a shot. Since we're talking about big events on Miami Beach, though, let's talk about one of the major events on Miami Beach that has generated a lot of controversy, and also it involves the police, it involves the Sunshine Law, it involves all the different aspects of beach life, because it's an event on Miami Beach, which is what Miami Beach is about in many ways. And that's the Urban Beach Week, which happens every year on Memorial Day weekend. So let's start in the past, because this is an incident that happened several years ago, but it's still affecting citizens today. And in 2011, there was a shooting by police officers on Miami Beach during Urban Beach Week. And a young man named Raymond Harris was killed in his car. 3 days later, police say they found a weapon. Well, 10 additional innocent bystanders, 4 of them very seriously, were all wounded by police bullets. And they have filed lawsuits. They have won all the lawsuits. But the Miami Beach Police Department has resisted all attempts to give full disclosure and follow the Sunshine Law with that incident. How will your administration continue your policy of being open and transparent about government while allowing the police department, who is under new leadership, and 4 years later, to continue stonewalling these people's Sunshine Law requests?
Great. Well, great question. So let me tell you what we did. When I ran for mayor, Glenn, I said that I am going to fully audit our police department because the headlines we were getting nationally and internationally were intolerable, and they were terrible for our city and for everything that was happening, and obviously all the wrong reasons. So what we did is, when I got elected, we did a full audit with an organization out of Washington, D.C. called PERF, which is made up of former FBI, former DEA, former police officers. They came down, they rode with our offices, they audited the entire police department, they created studies, and then they sat with myself and the city manager, and they said, let me tell you what your problem is here. You have a lack of leadership, which basically I knew they were going to say, which gets back to the Miami Dolphins again. You had a lack of leadership. So they said, we suggest that you go find a new police chief. At that point, the city manager, and I assisted him, we did a national search for a new police chief. And we interviewed police chiefs all over America. And we were very, very fortunate to find an amazing man by the name of Dan Oates, who was the former NYPD, 21 years the head of intelligence under Bill Bratton.
Yes,
who,
and
of
he
course,
was also the police chief at Aurora, Colorado during the movie theater shootings.
Exactly.
And he's got a law degree.
He's got a law
very
degree.
educated gentleman.
Super. And so we brought Dan in. The second person that we met during that search was an African-American woman by the name of Loretta Hill. And Loretta Hill came in as the number 2, as the deputy chief of our Miami Beach Police Department, making her the highest-ranking African-American and African-American female in the history of the department. Then from there, we changed the entire command staff. We changed the majors. We changed all the captains. We changed everything in the entire, and then policies began to change.
But even with all of those changes, there's still been no sunshine disclosure in this 2011 incident.
So let me go what's happened now.
So why has the new leadership?
So for the last 2 years, Glenn, the only headlines we've had are A, you have to have a 4-year degree now to join our department, or 3 years of military.
Yes, that
B,
is a major improvement.
B,
4 years of
we have
college.
a complete use of force policy, which has been radically changed. 3, which I think you alluded to recently, new forms of tasers and new taser policies. The culture of this police department in the last 2 years, under the leadership of Dan Oates, has changed dramatically for the better. Now, the last 2 Memorial Days, I've been there. I've rode on golf carts. I've been with our police department watching how they operate. They've been peaceful. It's been wonderful. It's been enjoyable for our visitors, for our residents. Things have gone very, very smooth. Now, getting into the specifics of a case, like you're asking me, I will say this to you. This is a case that is controlled and run by the state attorney's office. For me to speak about a case of an ongoing investigation, I just can't do it. And as you know, anything that happens in Miami Beach, that's a crime of that level, is with our state attorney. So
well, this is not about the facts of the case that I'm asking. I'm asking about the disclosure. Under Chapter 119 and under the Florida Constitution, our police have been ordered by the courts of this great state to hand over information, and they are still resisting it, even after court orders, even after leadership changes. If you change leaders but keep the same policies, how are you changing leaders?
Right. So, Glenn, I have to refer you to the state attorney, because I know that our police department works very closely with the state attorney, and any request the state attorney or any legal request, I know that they would be complying with. So I unfortunately can't comment more than that, but I do know that our department has changed dramatically over the last 2 years, and it continues to change for the better.
All right, we're going to take a very short break, and we'll be right back. This is the Only in Miami show.
There you go. Yes, but I'll find out more about it, but we comply with everything. I mean,
They've been fighting the courts.
yeah.
I mean,
it has to be a state attorney though. 'Cause she's Kathy Rundle's in charge of the whole case.
yeah,
Our
but
guys do
this is the civil issue. These people are having the issue of getting compensated
Yeah.
for being wounded.
So it's a civil case.
They're trying to gain disclosure, not the criminal case. Criminal case has already been settled.
It's done.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There is no more criminal ongoing
Yeah,
investigation.
but I know our city attorney would comply with everything. I mean, we're very by the book, but
No, man.
I can find out. I can find out more.
This is way outside of compliance. These poor people have been,
That was what a horrible
stonewalled.
department. Let me tell you something. This department, before I got there, and they threatened me everything. Because I came out against them. They wanted nothing more than me to lose.
Yeah. I mean,
They hated my guts.
They hate everybody's guts. They're not a very nice
thing.
department. I mean,
But we still have to fight with them. We're constantly fighting because it's like our whole command staff. I'm dealing with union issues now, the compensation. It's like,
yeah. I had the head of the Miami Police Union in here,
oh my God.
and he told me that one of his officers jumped into the back seat of a car with a handcuffed suspect to make sure he had proper ventilation.
Yeah. These guys have a different world than us.
Yeah.
They have a different mentality, different world than
Oh,
us. It's been an education, I'll tell you that.
Welcome back. This is the Only in Miami show, and I'm your host, Grant Stern. You can find me on Twitter at Grant Stern, and everything about the show at www.onlyinmiami.co, iTunes, podcast, SoundCloud, and a whole lot more. Check it out at onlyinmiami.co. And we're back with Incumbent Mayor of Miami Beach, Phillip Levine. Phillip, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
So, let's keep going. We left off with the police, and let's pick up with the police, and let's talk about, an incident that you had mentioned. We didn't talk about it previously, but it relates to taser policy with Miami Beach PD. And you mentioned blight on North Beach. And the most blighted part of North Beach is the former McDonald's, right there on 71st Street.
Yes, exactly. That whole area there. And it's going through positive change right now, though.
It's going through positive change.
It actually has a new tenant there. It looks beautiful, from what I understand.
Yes, it does now. But it sparked an incident that people still remember, which is the death of a young man named Israel Rifa Hernandez at the hands of a Miami Beach police officer. And that led to some policy changes. So explain to our audience what Miami Beach PD has done to change their policies. Because you mentioned broader use of force policies. And definitely for those that read my photographyisnotacrime.com column, they would care about that. But explain for our audience what's different today.
Well, first of all, I would just like to say that was an absolute tragedy. And, last couple of years I came into office. Obviously that incident happened before administration. But nevertheless, my heart goes out for their entire family. And this was a very bright, young, smart, up-and-coming artist. And that clearly was something that we would never, ever want to see again happen anywhere, especially Miami Beach. Since that time, I told you we have a new chief, we have a new deputy chief, we have a new command staff. We have a change in use of force policy that the chief has brought to the administration, to the department.
But specifically with tasers.
But so from what I understand, and obviously I'm not a police expert, would never want to put myself out there, but our chief is, and I would encourage you to have him on the show because he'd be able to answer this very specific.
Oh, he didn't want to be recorded the last time I saw him.
But what they have done, and what they have done, of course, is they have changed the taser policy. And those are specific things that the chief has put into place. They've also, from what I understand, have a different type of taser that I guess is less strong or less lethal that they put into effect. And once again, but I think it starts at the top. I really believe in my heart the speed of the leader determines the rate of the pack. When you are changing the culture of a police department like we have undergone in the last 2 years, people act differently, they think differently. I don't want to get into the specifics of that unfortunate, horrible incident, but I do know that I believe, and I know our administration believes, that with the new team we have there, hopefully these types of things will be from the past.
Okay, so we're going to do something that we did with your opponent last week, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes for each question. And the first question would be, because you guys are in a race here, what would you say your opponent's vision for Miami Beach is?
Well, that's a really, really good question. It's hard for me to know that because I knocked on 6,000 doors and I met the people and I listened to what they had to say. I haven't heard anything from my opponent.
He spent a whole hour here last week. There's plenty to listen to.
What I understand is that they want to go backwards. That his policies are the policies of the past. His policies are the policies of the previous city manager and of taking the city back to where it was before I became mayor.
I can tell you most assuredly he did not mention either of those ideas. Continue.
But so I haven't really, I know when during the Breakfast Club he was asked what it was and he said specifically that he doesn't have a plan and he'll learn on the job. We have done so much, so many things that must be continued that we can't let fall back. So to be honest with you, I don't know what my opponent's plan is, and I would be wrong if I told you I did, because I just don't know.
So what would be your plan for the next 2 years for Miami Beach?
My plan is pretty clear, is to continue what we've done in the previous 2 years and move things forward. Number one, continue and make sure we renovate our convention center properly. Make sure we build that 6-acre green space park in front of it. Number two, to continue the culture change in our police department to make sure, as we previously discussed, these horrible incidents do not happen and bring bad press to our entire city and to our people.
That's the only reason to reform the police department?
Of course that, and of course we don't want to have horrible, unfortunate incidents happen to anybody or life or loss of anything. That's of course the situation. The third thing we don't want to do is we must move forward with our flood prevention program. It's a $400 million program. We have 60 pumps we need to install. We cannot stop this program. The previous administration were pushing in injection wells, pushing water into our aquifer. And you know what was happening? The water was bubbling back up because the water level is too high. We've changed that system. We no longer want those types of pumps. We studied it. We understand it. So we got to continue that way. I also want to continue in North Beach. I want to make sure that North Beach flourishes, that grows, that the right things happen, that we have the right master plan, that the right areas are protected. The MIMO design is protected in North Beach, that the North Shore Open Space Park gets completely renovated. We're spending $6 million to do that. These are part of the things that I want to make sure that our residents are still treated like customers, and we continue that customization, because previously, when you walked into City Hall, or you wanted to get a building permit, or you wanted to paint your house, or you wanted to open up a small business, you were treated horribly. Today, you're treated like a customer. I want to make sure we continue that going forward.
Well, a couple of years ago, you said something that was published in the Washington Post, and I'm sure you've heard it again and again, and probably a lot more on the radio than on any other medium, and it bears reading here today, because I want your reaction to this. You said, it's important for cities to play to their strengths. Do not try to be something you're not. Miami Beach, our strengths are tourism and travel. We also think it's a great opportunity for us to attract hedge funds and private equity groups, because what do they need? They're looking for, number one, quality of life. We have it. Number two, they want beautiful places to live. Miami Beach, we have it. Number three, they want tax savings. You move from New York to Florida, you're probably going to save almost 10% on your income. So we're a little bit like Monaco of America. That's who we are. Now, many would say that they don't want to be Monaco of America.
Right. And you know what?
How is this congruent with your vision for Miami Beach for people that are not hedge funders, that are not wealthy, that are not living in the oceanfront penthouses, but rather the small apartment buildings who work and live in Miami Beach?
That's a very good question. And when I said Monaco, I'm meaning that's one segment of who we are. That's one part of our core competency. In the same token, we're tourism, we're hospitality. We're actually developing some high tech. We have Rocker Labs in Miami Beach that are doing great things and starting to build businesses. We have the FIU is open to school right on Lincoln Road, and we hope they expand it. We hope to have a sea level rise institute. So,
certainly there's plenty of room for a sea level rise institute on Miami Beach.
But what I guess the point is that we want to be many things, but we want to own these niches as much as we possibly can. But I tell you the one thing we don't want to be. We don't want to be a convention-style city that attracts all types of conventions that have commuters coming in. We need less people on our streets. We want more heads in beds. We want more shows that utilize our new renovated convention center, where people are flying in, staying at our hotels, and not driving in necessarily and clogging up our roads. So we're trying to reposition our city.
Well,
that way.
is it the tourists that are causing the traffic, or is it the residents?
Well, I think it's a combination. I think you can't discriminate one for the other. I think that, hopefully...
you're the mayor.
Yeah,
you tell me.
Hopefully our tourists will utilize some of our transportation and not drive cars and not rent cars. We just started this new program, Cars to Go, which is terrific. And we hope to expand those kind of things.
Yes, Car2Go. I was associated with Car2Go for a very long time until they decided to start transportation redlining in Miami. Is that amazing or what? They actually invented a new form of discrimination in public utility and services.
Well, I hope we didn't do that, but if you say so.
It's not you guys that did it.
Okay,
no, you guys didn't do it. It's their company, Car2Go, which I have a very specific beef with them, but that's another story.
Glenn, when I first got elected, one of the first things I did is we passed a non-binding resolution that we wanted Uber. And,
sure.
Of course, the county was all against it, and now hopefully we're going to move forward. I've been a big advocate of it. I'm a user of Uber.
Yeah, so am I.
So I just hope
took Lyft over here.
Yeah, I hope we can just continue and get these things. Beggars can't be choosers. We need as many transportation alternatives as possible.
But again, isn't it the locals that are really the traffic issue? I mean, the tourists, they take a cab and then they walk around.
It's probably more locals, but it's also, truly, we have people that are working in the city. We got to make it easier for them to get to our city. I mean, it's hard. The residents have a challenging time. But I think with the things we've done and with the construction coming to an end on Alton Road, people will see a big difference.
Okay, so I've got time for one last question, and I'll give you some time to speak directly to the audience as well. My final question is, what do you believe the fate of Rebecca Tower and its sister tower should be in maintaining affordable housing on South Beach, south of 5th?
Well, it's funny you brought that up, because unfortunately my opponent put out lies. Horrible lies. Lies that scare the old people of our city. Shameless lies. Things that you never do in a campaign because they hurt people.
I've just been reading the news, to be honest. Not your campaign.
What's so sad is that, I've been the biggest champion for the seniors. Rebecca Towers is never going to be developed. It will never be developed as long as I'm the mayor in this city. It will never happen. But more importantly, which is so ridiculous, it makes these lies so stupid, is that, forget about what I'm saying. We have legal covenants from HUD and the city, which basically say that development at a senior housing facility like Rebecca Towers can never be changed. It would have to be 10, 15, 20 years from now, and you'd have to have a all kinds of ordinances and referendums. It's his ridiculousness, and it's a sad thing when your political opponents scare old people for political votes, and it backlashes. It always turns around the wrong way. So I believe that we need more senior housing, and the one thing we shouldn't do is ever scare seniors for any political cause whatsoever.
Alrighty. Well, Mayor Levine, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to speak directly to our audience and explain to them why you are the incumbent and you should be elected for another term, for another 2 years on Miami Beach.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. I ran for mayor. I'm not a political politician. I'm not a politician, rather. I'm a business person. I ran for mayor to help the city, which I love. I financed my campaign last time. I'm financing my campaign this time. I don't take a salary. I don't take any expenses from the city whatsoever. I do it because I love the city of Miami Beach. It's the most wonderful experience I've ever had in my life, and it's been the most rewarding. I believe that the city has moved in an incredibly positive direction. We have a plan for flooding. We're renovating our convention center. We've begun reforming our police department. We've begun stimulating and paying attention to North Beach. We have started now, the last 2 years, aggressively to treat our residents and our tourists like their customers. And we're making Miami Beach the 21st century city that it's supposed to be. And we've also limited development. We've pushed back. We have increased our historic preservation laws. You no longer can build McMansions on Miami Beach. We've reduced what you can build on a single-family lot. And we're continuing to do the right things because of one reason. I listen and we listen to the people of Miami Beach. That's who I serve. That's my boss. And I welcome and honor the opportunity to serve again.
Well, I really want to thank you for coming out to the program. It's been my pleasure for this hour. And tell our audience where they can find out a little bit more about you online and on Twitter.
Sure. Well, Levine for Mayor. LevineForMayor.com is our website, and that is our campaign website. And I encourage everyone to go to LevineForMayor.com.
Okay, and if they want to reach out to you on Twitter?
Mayor Phillip Levine. Mayor Levine.
At Mayor Levine.
At Mayor Phillip Levine.
On Twitter.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Well, Mr. Levine, thank you very much for coming out, and we'll be right back. This is the Only in Miami show.
Good. Is it good?
Yeah.
Was it? Are we live? Or we're live?
Oh, yeah, we're live.
Oh, good.
But, I mean, we're...
Okay, great. Good. Terrific. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of things going on for a city of 90,000 people.
By the way, it's incredible.